Happy New Year and welcome back to TRP, the Remy podcast. I am back with my original co-host, Lord Matthew Gabriel. Matthew, welcome back.
Thank you.
It feels like it's been over a year since we've had you on the show.
I think last year was the last time I was on the show. That'll not be the last time that joke is made, probably.
No, we are redundant, if anything. I apologize in advance. I've been battling a cold. I'm now finally better, and I'm not going to contaminate Lord Matthew.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. So we're going to start out today just by talking about some of the Christmas time activity that kind of went down that we missed over the break a little bit. The biggest piece, I would say, that we did not get a chance to go over is the Reds-Dodgers trade and what was significant about that. The Dodgers got Homer Bailey, shortstop prospect Jeter Downs. Obviously, I love the name. He was the 7th overall prospect in the Reds organization. And Josiah Gray, who was their 20th overall prospect. The Reds is kind of the Reds benefited by picking up Yasiel Puig, Alex Wood, Matt Kemp, utility infielder Kyle Farmer, and they got cash considerations as well from the Dodgers. They got $7 million in cash. This was predominantly on the Dodgers' end, a salary dump, so they could get under the soft cap, the luxury tax threshold. And for the Reds, they've been a decent hitting team, but they haven't had somebody, I think, in the outfield to really pick them up like Yasiel Puig, and Alex Wood is a good middle of rotation starter. Matt, as the resident NL Central fan, Mr. Cubby over here, how do you think that this affects the Reds? How do you feel about your division with this move, and what are your kind of thoughts?
Well, the Reds, just from a Cubs perspective, the Reds gave us a lot of trouble last year. They're, like you said, a really good hitting team. Puig, I think, will do much better out of the spotlight. I think when he got sent down to the minors and kind of came back, he sort of found himself a little bit. Kemp has always been a pretty consistent hitter, more or less. It definitely improves their offense for sure. And then, their biggest problem last year was their pitching, and Wood, provides a solid starter for them. I don't know if it's going to be enough to push them past the Cubs and the Brewers and even the Cardinals now at this point. So, it's going to be a dogfight in that division, but I think they're trying to keep pace as much as they can.
It's exciting to watch, and like you said, it'll be a dogfight. And the Reds are still on the market for pitching. One of the players, I should say, they've been linked to. Hashtag Graywatch, Sonny Gray. So, interesting snag. So, throughout the winter, throughout the offseason, Sonny Gray has been linked to the Reds. He's been linked to the Brewers, the Padres, the Braves, and a whole host of other teams because Sonny Gray's road splits were much better versus his numbers at home. But kind of a monkey wrench thrown into the Yankees' determined plans to trade Sonny Gray. CC had heart surgery towards Christmas, and he's still recovering from that. I did see right before that we went on air, so to speak, that the Yankees PR department tweeted out that he's good to go and to resume baseball activities, so that might have an effect on Sonny. But the flip side to it, too, is Cashman was saying that they may keep Sonny Gray for a little bit just to see how CC kind of bounces back from having heart surgery. And I'm not trying to laugh or snicker at the heart surgery. It's just that's a major.
He's a big boy.
He's a big dude. He's a good dude. He's a good leader. He's a big guy. But from a pitcher's perspective, you've heard nothing but your general manager, and it's uncommon to literally say he doesn't think you could pitch here. You need to go somewhere else. He does think you'll be successful, but you need to go somewhere else. And then hearing, you might come into spring training and start the season still just out of need and necessity. That could be posturing. That could be a lot of different things. But if you're Sonny Gray, you can't pitch in New York. You can't throw another pitch for the Yankees, in my opinion.
You think he holds out then, or what do you think he does?
Who holds out?
Sonny Gray. You think he
Sonny Gray's on the team. He's not going to just
not pitch.
No, Sonny Gray. There's a lot of things you could say about the man who calls himself Pickles. But, Sonny Gray's nickname for himself is Pickles.
That's really unfortunate.
Yes, but he's a competitor. I think if he was on the team, he would go out there and pitch, but, maybe in the locker room be a little pouty. I don't see them keeping Sonny Gray, and it could be further posturing to maybe get better offers to push the deal going through from the Padres or the Braves, the Reds, or who have you. Sonny Gray can't throw another pitch in the Bronx. It just doesn't happen.
But I wonder if with CC having heart surgery, if that sort of lessens the Yankees' kind of hold with them, needing, they're going to need the pitching depth anyway, so we don't have to really make as big of a push for Sonny Gray or anything like that.
Well, I've thought that even with CC, even if he was fully healthy, the Yankees are still going to be targeting pitching. They've gone and
CC doesn't pitch more than like 5 innings a game now. So.
He doesn't. He gives you. He actually is one of the best in soft contact in the league, but
sure,
he gives you good competitive starts. I just think the Yankees may be, and it may all hinge on what Manny Machado does, and we'll get into Machado later. But I still think the Yankees really need an ace, and I think regardless of if CC was healthy or not, that another starting pitcher is still on the horizon. But just to switch gears for a second, going from the starting rotation market and trades and things to what actually has transpired, so to speak, on the relief market. We saw Andrew Miller sign with the Cardinals towards Christmas. He got a 2-year deal. 2-year, $25 million deal with a vesting option for 2021. Andrew Miller's kind of a curious case. He finished last year with a 4.24 ERA. He made 3 trips to the disabled list. He had 2 trips to the DL in 2017. I mean, Andrew Miller, when you've thought about the guy, has been a dominant bullpen piece, very flexible piece. You saw how the Indians had previously used him. I mean, he helped carry them in that World Series against your Cubs. But he's being ravaged by injuries. Andrew Miller's, I think, 34 years old. You're not sure about the arm. I think that's one of the reasons probably the Yankees, maybe had interest in him but didn't fully commit, is because what mileage left can you get out of Andrew Miller at this point? He's a great clubhouse guy, but what mileage is left on him?
Oh, he'll fit right in with the Cardinals and all their pitching injuries they get every year. So, I mean, he struggled a lot last year. I think obviously the DL stints hurt him quite a bit. He had his moments, though, where he looked like the Andrew Miller of old. Like, he could pitch 2 really good innings, strike out, more than half the batters he faced. So, Cardinals needed bullpen depth anyway. I think it's for 2 years? How was the contract? Like 2 years, something like that?
Yeah, 2 years, $25 million.
Yeah. I mean, he'll be, 36 at that point? I mean, I think they get a couple good years out of him. And they really needed the bullpen depth anyway. I think it's a decent signing for him.
I like Andrew Miller. I think he's a competitor. I mean, he's very gritty. He'll give you what he has, so I like that. More recent news, voice cracking a little bit here. David Robertson signed with the Philadelphia Phillies, 2-year, $23 million deal. As I cough in the background here. The big kind of thing with this is David Robertson lives in Rhode Island. He wanted to stay close to home. He wanted a chance to close again. And by representing himself, I think they said he saved him $1.5 million. And people have been debating this back and forth. Oh, is Robertson dumb for representing himself? Could he have gotten more money? Could this, that, and the other? And there's 2 schools of thought on this to me. One, I was a sports agent for a cup of coffee, as you know. The complexities of negotiating a contract, especially when you hear what a general manager, an owner, or somebody has to say about you. Even if you do sign with them, if they have some reservations or there's any kind of negative in there, there's not really a filter. You're directly there to hear that. And plus, sort of the just getting in the weeds of what the contract's going to look like and things versus that and the other, you just need to separate yourself from that. But at the same time, and looking at the other side of the coin, David knew what he wanted. It's not like he doesn't make a boatload of money. He's in a situation where a team is definitely on the rise in Philadelphia. They're going to compete in the NL East. And I don't know if he's 100% going to be the closer. I think they may have some flexibility with that. Gabe Kapler's a sort of innovative type of manager. I think he's in a good situation. I think he'll thrive there.
Oh, I agree. I mean, yeah, that team is definitely on the rise. I think they're trying to sign everybody they can to improve that team. They had obviously a disappointing end of the season last year, but they have a great pitching on that team. They got a lot of good starters. They got a decent hitting team. I mean, every little bit's going to help. And Robertson was great last year, so I mean, Again, 2 years, $23 million. I mean, that's not a risky signing by any means. I mean, they can get 2 good years out of him and see what happens.
He's still got a good K rate. I think he can sometimes get in trouble with control and walks, especially as he ages, quote unquote. But we'll see. Kind of wrapping this into a nice bow in terms of Yankee relievers. Zach Britton re-signed with the Yankees, 3 years, $39 million, and it's a weird deal, Matt. So he's a team option for a 4th year, but if the Yankees don't pick up that fourth, I'm stuttering all over myself. If the Yankees do not pick up that option after year 2, Britton can opt out. So basically, you're getting this guy for 2 years, and then if he's still pitching well, you pick up that option and get him for 2 more on that back end. He's 31 years old. He tore his right Achilles in December of 2017. He wasn't right whatsoever. Missed the large chunk of last season. Or I'm sorry, of the 2018 season. He's not that far removed from 2016 when he had a 2-1 record. He had a .54 ERA and he had 47 saves. I mean, that's as spectacular a season as a reliever's going to have.
Yep.
I think it's a clutch signing. I think, as he's further removed from that surgery, he's a dominant lefty. His sinker is absolutely killer. And, I'm glad New York made a good impression on him. He knows the AL East. He can compete in the AL East, and I think that's a key piece to have on your team.
You really need to be a dominant lefty at Yankee Stadium. So, I mean, that definitely helps you guys in the back end of your games and all that.
Yeah, I mean, he was impressive. I think it's a good signing. I think it keeps the back end of the Yankees rotation looking strong. Chapman's injury prone, so if he goes down, you have somebody else that can, be a closer. You keep him in that mix with Chapman, with Chad Green, and some of these other guys who are just fireball arms. I like it.
Do you see him as an upgrade over Robertson for sure?
That's
basically what you're doing is just trading Robertson for Britton.
Well, we had both, but I mean to sign. I mean it's not a bad thing to have a solid lefty reliever in Yankee Stadium. At this point in time, I don't know. Robertson's pretty effective against lefties and righties. You still don't 100% know what you're getting with Britton after the injuries, but I think it's a good cost-effective move. Like you said, you are kind of trading one without the other. For me, both of them are extremely, extremely tough to hit when they're on. They're great strikeout pitchers. It depends what's left. I mean, the last 2 prized relievers out there, Kimbrel's still out there as a closer, and then everybody's looking at Adam Ottavino, the righty from the Rockies, and they're going to get stupid money, but, Kimbrel at least has the pedigree. I think Ottavino only had the one good season really to kind of cash in on, and I know the signing of Britton doesn't take the Yankees out of Ottavino. They're still interested in him as well. He's a New York guy.
He's pretty young too, isn't he? He's like younger.
I think he's like 33.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, relievers are tricky. I mean, that's at the end of the day, relievers are tricky. You don't know what you're going to get out of them. Robertson's, for the most part in his career, he's had some rough spots early on, but mostly been pretty solid. So with that said, I do like having Robertson, but getting Britton, and if you do get Ottavino, hopefully that does kind of shore up, more so what you had last year from the Yankees.
Sure.
And then kind of going into one of Britton's former teammates, Manny Machado, who we often talk about. Right before the end of the year, we were discussing, interest in the White Sox, Phillies, and Yankees who are interested in him and who may sign with. Still looking at the White Sox, Phillies, or Yankees. Literally nothing has changed. The only moves that kind of happened was, we have discussed the White Sox traded for his brother-in-law, Yonder Alonso. And then ESPN reported last night that John Jay signed with the White Sox for 1 year, $4 million. And Ken Rosenthal was chiming in that John Jay is a longtime friend of Manny Machado's. The 3 of these guys actually trained together in Miami in the offseason. So, not sure what's going on with the Yankees. Obviously they signed Troy Tulowitzki, who can play shortstop. They got him for league minimum. Good, really great character guy. We know his history and his pedigree as an all-star and just what he was, maybe not what he is.
Sure.
And that gives you maybe some breathing room in case you don't get Manny. But Troy Tulowitzki is not Manny Machado.
He's He's not a lot of shortstop anymore,
Well,
frankly.
that's true, but Manny is an exceptional talent. And obviously, the Phillies, they have the quote that they're going to throw stupid money out there, and the White Sox, maybe because they are the furthest away from contention when comparing them to a Philadelphia or a New York Yankees, trying to pad the team with bros, so to speak.
Sure.
Do you think that that's a smart move, or do you think Manny still would kind of ignore that because he wants to win?
Yeah, see, I feel like he's done enough years in Baltimore where they were sort of treading water, just sort of sitting at the bottom. I think he's ready to move up a little bit, and obviously, like you said, he's a generational talent. He's very, very good at what he does. I would, as the Sox are, stockpiling all his relatives, basically, I would kind of lean more toward the Phillies or the Yankees, I guess, at this point, just because I think the Phillies, honestly, I think they're going to be really good this year. I think they're going to surprise a lot of people, and if they get a couple pieces, they've obviously been throwing money at pitching and hitting the last couple of years, so I wouldn't be surprised if they got them and made some splashes over there.
Well, the one caveat, the one interesting thing kind of being thrown out there and reported is Manny Machado's wife apparently loves New York. She would like to live in New York. She'd like to be in New York. And, we've heard bits and pieces that Manny's always been a Yankees fan, grew up an A-Rod fan. His nephew during the All-Star game last year said that he wants Manny to play for the Yankees and all that good jazz. As with somebody who has, you have a significant other, I'm married. What your wife wants and what your wife's interested in does play a big part sometimes.
Oh, sure. For sure. It's tough to say. I mean, like you said, I think there's a lot of factors kind of pushing him toward the Yankees at this point. I think the Sox are trying their best. I think the Phillies could throw a lot of money at him, but obviously the Yankees are, one of the richest teams in the league, if not the richest, I think. So, I mean, they can really much do whatever they want at this point.
If they're willing to do so. We've seen them be more reserved with Hal Steinbrenner than under King George.
Also true.
So it's interesting to watch and develop. It gives us something to talk about every week. So
yeah, it doesn't change, it seems like, from week to week.
But kind of ending this week on Manny's counterpart in the news, Bryce Harper. USA Today reported that the Phillies are going to fly to Las Vegas, the ownership there, and meet with Bryce on Saturday. So to your point about trying to spend stupid money and get whoever they want, and the Phillies are going to come out and visit Bryce. But on the flip side to that, Jim Bowden, the former Reds GM, still does sports radio on XM, does stuff for the MLB Network, ESPN. He was saying recently that the Washington Nationals have actually gone over the original $300 million that were reported over 10 years earlier in this offseason. So the Nationals seem to really view Bryce still as the face of their franchise and somebody that they want long term. I haven't heard, and it's possible that something's changed, but I don't think the Phillies go 10 years on Bryce. Do you go? I hate to use this cliche, but do you go with the devil you know or the devil you don't?
Well, as far as the length of the contract, I think 10 years is kind of being phased out. There are very few long-term contracts like that. I mean, you look at Pujols, you look at A-Rod. Those are contracts that look good out the front end, and then they tapered off, and they had a lot of money sort of wasted on some aging players that weren't performing quite as well. That's tough to say. I mean, he got quite the send-off. Obviously, the All-Star game was there. He was, loved and cheered the entire time. I think he'd be, welcomed, obviously, back there. I think the Nationals fan base would really love having him there. He would be, I think, ostracized from Washington if he ever left. But I mean, that's obviously up to him. He's got the agent that'll kind of get him stupid money anyway. So, I mean, if they're offering him a 10-year contract with over $300 million, I mean, that's tough to turn down regardless of where you're playing.
No, I agree. I mean, obviously he's familiar with ownership there. He's familiar with the stadium, with the fans. It'd be tough. I like to see players, stay long-term with teams. With that said, if he signed with the Yankees tomorrow, I would do backflips.
Or with the Cubs.
or with the Cubs. What were you telling me about New Year's?
I always hang out with Chris Bryant. They're doing some little partying action. So, I mean, they're best buds. You never know. You
never know who's going to be a dark horse in swooping. I mean, it's true. We like to speculate because obviously, again, it gives us something to talk about. But
sure.
There's a lot of different interesting directions that this can go, and you just kind of watch and wait and see what happens. But hopefully after this weekend, maybe towards the beginning of next week, there will hopefully be some more clarity around, what direction these guys might go in, and then kind of see what the secondary market's going, because, pitchers and catchers are reporting in a couple weeks. This show's going to get on the road, so you got to start having your team kind of fleshed out.
It's that lull after your football team's out and you're just waiting for another season to start.
Everybody, please give condolences to Matt on the Bears. I was there with him, and I came very close to posting a reaction video of him after that botched field goal.
It was Moving on.
It's okay. It's baseball season coming up, and you'll have your Cubbies. I'll have my Yankees, and we'll see what goes on there.
Thank God.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me again this week, and hopefully I don't cough into a fit and die at the end of this. But also just a reminder, I think I talked about this last show. We'll start doing some breakdowns for the Hall of Fame voting, because those ballots are due on the 22nd, and we'll take a look at a couple things going on with that. Probably do that in the next week or two. And
should submit our own ballots or something.
We're not writers, so no one cares what we think. I'm not sure anyone cares what some of them think, but
we can offer our 2 cents on that.
We offer our 2 cents on everything. But yeah, maybe we'll do a show where we take a look at the ballot once things calm down and see our opinions. Mariano Rivera is still at 100% on the reported ballots. I don't think you can dispute that.
I'm kidding.
He's kidding. He knows his head would go through it now. Not putting people through walls.
He'll definitely be in.
So we got some good material to talk about. Thank you guys very much for listening to another TRP episode. And, enjoy the off season when we got it. Look forward to the new season, and always be a fan.
It's a trap!